Your savings funds tab is a fun place to be in. So here you're going to be able to set your goals and your emergency fund, all of those things. So there's kind of a lot going on in this tab, so don't be overwhelmed by that. Just walk your way through it and just kind of check it out and see what you want to use right away, if you want to use all of it or if you just want to use pieces of it. So what you're going to do is you're going to establish what your goals are. So we have the emergency fund up at the top. We have entered $1,000, and that's just a default because we do follow that Dave Ramsey plan. So you start with $1,000, pay off all your debt, and then move into the next steps. So we started at 1,000. If you're on a different step or if you're doing a different plan, you can change this number, but we do recommend following with that plan just because it is so great. And next, you're just going to start your other funds. So let's say you have a vehicle fund going, a Christmas fund, and let's say a vacation fund. So these are going to just be your goals and your savings goals. You're going to enter your amounts here of what your goal is to reach. So I'm just plugging in some numbers here. And then when that happens, it's going to tell you down here that to fund all of your goals, it's going to be $11,400. Now, what's happening below that, it's giving you donut pie charts so that as you start depositing into each of these funds, it's going to track it for you just to let you know how close you are so you have that visual. Now, when it comes to your grand total up here, that's because it's adding your emergency fund and all of these sinking fund balances. So your emergency fund is going to calculate on its own right in the F4 cell. All of these other funds are going to calculate down here. And then they're going to add those two balances together to get your grand total up here. So as you're entering all of these, when you reach one, you can check this box, and when that is the case, it'll cross it off to let you know that you are done done saving for that fund. When you go over to the right, you're going to be able to see some different things that you can use. Now, how much should you have in your emergency fund? If you are just doing a 1 month fund, that's gonna, if something happens, you have enough to cover 1 month of expenses, it's gonna add it right here for you. And this has pulled in all of your information from your base budget tab. So it's telling me that from our base budget, 1 month, we would need to cover 1 month of expenses, we would need $28.40. If we wanted to cover 3 months of expenses, we would need $85.20. And if we wanted to cover 6 months of expenses, we would need $17,040. And that is pulling all of that information over. When we go over to the calculators, I'm going to skip the per deposit calculator just for a second. We're going to go down to the savings goal calculator. If we are, depending on how you want to calculate it, this is just to play around with so you have an idea of how long it's going to take to reach your goal. So if you want, it says enter the amount you need to reach your goal. So let's say we're saving for that car and we're going to save $8,000. That's our goal in our tracker. And the amount that I can save each month is $700 to go towards this goal. It's going to take me approximately 11.4 months. And from today, I should be able to reach my goal by next November. So that's what this one is. That's what this calculator is. The one below it works a little bit different. It is you put in the amount that you're wanting to save for. And let's say I know I only have 6 months to save and I need to purchase this in 6 months. That means I need to set my goals to save $1,333.33 every month to be able to reach this goal 6 months from today. So that is how these calculators work. You can play around with them to see what your goals are and how you can achieve those. Now for the deposit calculator, that is, so this tab works on its own separate from the transactions in your monthly budget tab. So I'm going to show you, don't get confused, but it works really smoothly. So let's say we're in January and we have budgeted for our giving and savings, our sinking funds. So let's say on the 1st, we're transferring over. So let's log a transfer because we want it to pull from this balance, and we're going to deposit that into a savings account. So we want it to pull from this account. And these two tabs don't link together, so we have to log it in our month that we're going to pull it from. So we're going to say it's going to a sinking and savings fund, and we are going to pull $1,000. Now again, it is red. So we didn't budget $1,000, it says. So let's say we are going to put $500 in there. So when that happens, it is red. So once we actually do the transaction, we'll go ahead and put that black to show that it's no longer pending. It's already cleared our bank account. But once we track that, we're going to take that $500 and note that in our head. And now we're going to go over to the savings funds. And now we know, so we would take the grand total here. So we do the deposit calculator. So you take the grand total starting. That is this number in J1. So no matter what that is, we're going to put it right there. So we're going to start with 0 because we haven't deposited anything yet. And now the amount to deposit. We are pulling $500 in here. So now it's telling us that our current total and left to assign. So what we've deposited and what we have left to assign. We haven't deposited, or we haven't assigned it to anything, so it's still giving us $500. So now this is where you are going to log your savings account transactions. It is different than your monthly budget. So in your monthly transaction log, you just enter the amount. You don't have to, it doesn't matter if it is, you don't have to put it negative, and actually you shouldn't put it negative because then it'll add it. It's backwards, but you just enter the amounts in your monthly tabs. Here, you are going to have to put it in a positive format or a negative format based on if you are depositing it, you put it as a positive. If you are pulling it away and you're spending it, you put it as a negative, so you need to subtract it from your balance. So keep that in mind. So let's say on the 1st, we're doing that transfer, because now we're logging it and we're going to assign it somewhere. And we're going to pick a category, and now all of those categories I just entered are going to be in this drop-down menu for me now. So I'm going to say that we are going to apply, now for this purpose, let's put part of it in the emergency fund. Let's say 400 of it is going to go into an emergency fund. So now it's telling us that we have assigned 400 and we have 100 left to assign. So now we're going to say another thing. And let's put a Christmas fund, and let's say we're only going to put $25 in there. So now we have 75 left. So we're going to do it again. And now we're going to put the rest in the vehicle fund. So now we're at 0. So we have assigned all of the money. We are good to go. We'll just drop over to the left. It now tells us that we have $500 in our savings account, and now it's telling us where we have divided amongst. So we have 400 total in our emergency fund now, we have $75 total in our vehicle fund, and we have $25 total in our Christmas fund. And as you continue applying these and depositing money into them, they will keep growing for you and to reach your savings goal. Now, when it comes time to actually purchase something and use this money, you're going to still log it in here, and like I said, you're going to do it in a negative format. So let's say on the 7th, we are spending out of that Christmas fund. So let's say we're going to Kohl's. And I'm selecting the Christmas fund, and you always select a category, otherwise it will not calculate. And that's the case for the savings funds and the monthly tabs. So you always want to select a category so it knows where to pull that money from. And let's say we're going to subtract $15, because that's how much we spent. So now, as you can see in the Christmas fund, we now only have $10 remaining because it's spent $15. Once all of these have cleared, again, go back in and turn them black, and then that way you know that you're not waiting for that pending payment. So when you're balancing everything out in your accounts, and now it has dropped our grand total to $485 after we made that purchase. So that is how you use your savings tabs. As you go down, you can see because we deposited money into some of them, it gives us our charts to show us in a visual format of how close we are to reaching those goals. And those go down too, so that you have room to see all of those savings goals that you're working towards.